This is part 5 of the Craftsman 6-inch joiner rebuild series. If you haven't seen part 4, click the link at the top of the screen. In this video, we're going to be preparing parts for paint. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff and welcome to my shop. We got a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Continuing where we left off in part 4, this is the front table. And we need to clean it up and then mask it. And again, I've sped up this footage, but using the orbital sander, we clean the table surface and then we start to mask it off with the painter's tape, and then trim that with an X-Acto knife. And then we'll flip it over and do basically the same thing on the bottom. So, and I do apologize. I mean, this whole video is going to be pretty much this kind of footage. So if you get bored, I apologize, but I wanted to show all of it. So one thing that I did notice is there's this gummed up stuff on the bottom of this table. And I don't know if that's resin or glue maybe, but yeah, I tried getting it out with this scraper, and I can break it away, but there's an easier way to do this. So I'll break out the wire wheel here in a second and just wire wheel most of it away. It's hard to believe the simple green didn't break that down, but yep, no problem. So wire wheel on the angle grinder. And yes, I am wearing flip-flops. You come live in Georgia and deal with our heat and humidity and tell me you're going to wear steel-toed boots everywhere you go. So once I got most of this cleaned up with this angle grinder, I've got a smaller brush that I'm going to use with a drill here. Kind of get into that nooky area there on the right side of both of those. And that's all we needed to do. So now we can continue with masking. So I'm going to plug up this hole that's in the table. That's for the sliding guard that slides over the blade. And then we're back to masking. And, you know, nothing crazy here. Just a lot of tape and patience. So those cleaned off areas in the center of the table are where your dovetails mount. And they are machined, so yeah, I'm going to mask them off as well. And then clean all that up with the X-Acto knife. And once we're done with this, we can set it aside. And next we've got the fence assembly. So clean it up pretty much the same way. Oscillating sander. And then use the multi-tool. There's a couple of little areas on that back side that needed to be masked, and then mask them with the tape and cut them with the X-Acto knife. And then there is a machined the right outside edge was machined, and we cleaned it up and masked it as well. and then masking the face of the fence, and cleaning all that up with the X-Acto knife. Like so. And set that aside. Now these are the parts that we cleaned in the grinder wire wheel, and they are Dovetails. So of course the grinder couldn't get all the way in there, so I'm just using a small brass brush on my Fordham, which is basically a Dremel, cleaning them up with that, and then a larger wire brush on a drill or a driver to clean up some of the larger areas. And then we're going to mask off all of the machine surfaces. So what you're seeing here is we have 4 dovetails, we have the bearing brackets, we have the fence slide, and then we've got the mounting bracket for the belt guard. And yeah, it's tedious, no doubt. But I didn't want to just not show you the footage, so again, today's video is 20 minutes of this. And if you don't want to hear me talk, just put on some fast-paced techno music in the background and you'll be good to hook. So I could have masked those recessed areas where the screws go, but I think they're going to get paint, and you know, that'll help prevent some rust down in there. But the back side of the dovetail where it mates with the table is getting masked. So in video 6, we're not going to be painting yet, most likely. We're going to be doing a lot of fabrication. One of the things that I need to do is modify the power panel so that it is a grounded power panel. So I'll show you how I do that, and then we need to fabricate the stator band for the motor, because the one that was on the motor is really rusted and looks bad. So we'll be fabricating a new stator band as well. And I think in that video I'll also go over the various things that I ordered, new bearings, the replacement belt, the various components I need for the power panel, and probably a couple of other things that aren't coming to mind right now, but I'll cover all of that in video number 6, so you guys can have an idea of where to get that stuff if you need to do any of that. So these are the bearing brackets, and one side of them is machined, and then there's a section on the top that's machined. And then the recess where the bearing sits is also machined. So we'll mask all of that off. And there are some raised surfaces on this side of them, but it's cast, it's not machined flat, so I'm thinking that we're going to paint all of this side of it. And there's two of those, so basically the same. And I'm cutting out the sections on the machine side so that the paint is getting in that center area, because wherever there's going to be paint and primer, that's going to be rust prevention. And so as much of it that we can paint, we want to paint. And this is the belt guard bracket, and super simple. And then we've got the fence slide. And there are a couple of machined areas on the back side of it as well. And that one raised boss on that side. All right, so next we have the end frames for the motor. And they've got this machined outer flange area where the bearing sits. And so we're just cleaning up the inside of that where the bearing goes. And then we'll mask off the outside flange or boss. And then we're going to drop some plugs in there from the other side. And this is these plugs that I'm using. They're just rubber foam, like 1/2 inch thick floor foam that I cut and stick in there. So this is the joiner body. And there's a good bit of stuff that needs to get masked on this. So obviously we're cleaning it up with the multi-tool. And then we're masking. And if you've ever worked on stuff like this before and painted, you should realize that preparation is 9/10 of that damn battle. If you do the prep work good and correct, then painting is a breeze. So that's why I do all of this masking and stuff ahead of time, so that I can get that desired look that I want. And when we get to the painting, we're probably going to do this in my traditional hammered gold and leather brown spray paint. So to match the rest of my tools, and I'll go over those paints and the paint codes for them. But nothing crazy. It's all rattle can. So we're on the top side. Or no, the bottom side? Yeah, bottom side. There's not a whole lot to mask here. It's got some machined areas on both ends where it mounts, and that's pretty much it for this side. Now the bottom, there's a lot of machined areas here or the top, I guess, where those tables mount and meet with the joiner. So just Same like you've seen so far. And cleaning it all up with that X-Acto knife. And fear not, we're almost done. So, and I've been trying to think about what I'm going to work on next after I finish the joiner. And local friend of mine from Garage Journal dropped off a vise that will probably be the next video series unless something crazy happens. But I'm not going to tell you any more than that until the last video in this series. But it'll be a big deal, pun intended. And that wraps up that. So now we're on to the brackets for the pedestal tool stand. This is where the joiner mounts to the pedestal tool stand. So we're just cleaning those up. And then we're masking. Really the only areas that need to be masked are those bores that slide on the columns. There's a top and a bottom bore on both of these pieces. So masking it is pretty simple. And that's the brackets. Then really all we've got left is the base for the pedestal stand. And the only areas we're going to be masking here are the bores as well for the columns. There's 2 bores in each one of those holes for the columns. There's a top and a bottom bore. So again, basically the same thing we just did to the brackets. Then we'll flip it over and do the same thing on the bottom. Now there's a lot more paint on this side, and that paint has separated from the cast iron pretty well. It's kind of bubbly when you look at it. So once we get these 2 bores masked off down here, I'm going to come back with a wire brush and just wire brush the inside of that and remove most of that paint. And then we'll just blow it out with compressed air. But that's going to wrap up this video. It was a little shorter than usual, but a lot of stuff got done, and it took me quite a while to do all of that. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. Like I said, in the next video, we will be fabricating and possibly getting to the paint, and we'll be covering various parts that we ordered. So, as always, I appreciate your comments and the support, and I will see you next time.